Hey there, welcome to 𝗺minute Friday, and this week's short sales class is about how you could potentially triple your sales performance in the next 3 months. Okay, and I will show you how to do that using two principles. One is something called funnel metrics, and the other is the 10% rule. Now, if this is the first time you've joined me, brief introduction. My name is Brian Conway. I'm the creator of Top Line Transformation. Clues in the name, but it's basically for professional salespeople and business owners who want to see a significant improvement in sales and obviously the amount of money that you make and earn. And as I said, this class is going to be taken from that program where we talk about your sales process and how you can optimize that to see potentially a 300% increase in sales. Now, to do that, I'm going to go to my slides and give you a kind of a model of how this works and how simple it potentially is and the impact it can have. Now, this is built on something that I covered a couple of weeks ago where I talked about your revenue roadmap. And I suggest you go and watch that video because there's a number of benefits of having a revenue roadmap. But basically, this is what is the roadmap? What are the steps that will take you, or more importantly, take your customer to the point of placing an order and bringing in revenue for you or your business, or retiring quota, or your sales quota if you're a professional salesperson. And by having a revenue roadmap, it means you can get a sale or a close rather in every customer meeting that you have. Because let's say you have, I don't know, just think of an example, you're an accountant and you have an appointment with a potential new customer. Then if the next step in your sales process, your revenue roadmap, is the demo, to demo some accounting software, for example, then that's all you need to focus on. Not closing the deal and sign them up as a new client, but actually just getting them to commit to a demonstration of your new accounting software. And when you focus on having these micro kind of closes almost throughout your process, it makes it so much easier for you as a salesperson, and typically easier for your customers to buy as well. It takes a lot of the pressure out of the process. Now, I'm not here to talk about that. As I said, I covered that a couple of weeks ago, but it's important you understand what a revenue roadmap is to understand this principle of funnel metrics. And the funnel metrics basically is saying what are the conversion rates at each of these steps. So, for example, we said, let's say you generated 100 leads. Okay, and you had a 10% conversion rate of lead to appointment. Well, that would give you 10 appointments. And let's say you then had 80% of the people you typically have an appointment with want to see your demo software, so you would do 8 demos. Okay, these are what we call your funnel metrics. And it would go on down through the process. So for example, let's say 60% of the people that you do the demo for be interested in finding out more, so you have to do some kind of audit, perhaps financial audit for them, and that would be 4 potential audits. Now, it'd be 4.8 to be exact for those of you who are following along with the maths here. But obviously we can't have 4.8 of a person, so we'll just round down to 4. Now, let's say once they've done the audit, they all want a price, so they want a quote, but maybe you do lose some, so I won't go 100% there. But even so, you're still going to get 4.3 of a people, so that's still 4. Let's say then just 50% of those that you quote actually decide to go to the next step, which in this instance is maybe a proof of concept, or that's like a trial perhaps, or a pilot of some sort. So they trial your new software for a period of 3 months or whatever. So we get 2 of those committing to the trial, and then you have an 80% conversion rate, which kind of sounds quite high, but it's not, or shouldn't be when you get to this point. If you're doing a POC, the success criteria should already be predefined, etc. But that's another conversation, which means you close 1 customer. Now, let me show you what can happen if we use this principle called the 10% rule. 10% rule is saying, what if we could just improve steps in this process by just 10%? So this becomes 11%, right, which gives us now 11 appointments instead of only 1 more. This becomes 88%, you get the idea, 66%, 99%, 55%. Remember, we're just increasing by 10% each time, 88%. The numbers, again, I won't go through every kind of step, but I'll just show you how they run down here. You actually end up with 9 demos. You then get sort of 6 workshops, which is still kind of 6 quotes potentially, but you end up with 3.5 POCs, and with an 80% conversion rate, that gives you 3 customers. Now, I appreciate this is just an example, but I want you to understand, one, the importance of having the revenue roadmap, your funnel stages kind of mapped out, and 2, knowing what your metrics are at each stage. Because as you can see here, a minor, just 10% improvement across the board could give you a 300% improvement in sales. So if this sales process, let's say from appointment to close, is 3 months, that's why I was saying you could potentially see a 3 times improvement in your sales performance in literally 1 quarter. And let me just, there we go, come back to the camera here to wrap up. There we go. So as I was saying, you could see a potentially threefold, just using that example, a 300% increase in sales. Now, obviously, it depends on how long your sales cycle takes. It could be, maybe it's shorter than that, and you could start seeing improvements much sooner. But that was just an example. And let's say that took a quote 3 months, to close from appointment to close. Then you could see that sort of growth. But it might take you 12 months. You may have a high ticket, quite a sophisticated sales process, and it takes 12 months to close a client. But wouldn't it be great if just in a year, you could see a 300% increase in sales? Or if you're a salesperson and you're looking to retire your quota, not only will you crush it, but obviously I would hope you kind of get into accelerators and things as well, or just a significantly greater sales commission. So that's it for this week. A simple principle, but it's dependent on you on 3 things. 1, being able to map out your stages, and appreciate also that may vary depending on different products or services that you sell within your business, but every kind of product line or service line should have its own revenue roadmap. And with that, then you can obviously start to put metrics against it. And if you don't know what they are, because you've never measured them before, then just start doing it as of next week. And then you can map them for the first quarter. And then in the second quarter of the year, you could potentially sort of start to improve them, which is the third thing, which is just that 10% rule. We're not trying to boil the ocean here, just micro improvements, but they compound throughout that process to have a significant impact. And that's so important. Very few salespeople or even business owners really understand what those metrics are. And as hopefully you saw from that, I know it's only a worked example, but as an example, you could see the impact that potentially could have on your top line. So that's it for this week. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it's probably gone a little longer than 4 minutes this week, but it's an important lesson. So have a great weekend. More importantly, make sure you start applying these principles next week so you can start to see the results over the coming weeks and months. And I hope to see you again next week. And please do like, share, and whatever. It's always appreciated. And subscribe and follow whatever, depending what platform you're on, so you get alerted to any new classes as and when I release them. So I look forward to seeing you again. All the best. I'm Brian Conway. Bye-bye.